a good day. We have like a legit, nice, expensive signing. But first off, Braun, Kratz, Pierzynski, telling everyone that's listening to the podcast that gets posted after the show that we also appreciate the YouTube subscribers. So we are inching very closely to 40,000 YouTube subscribers. And we just want to say we appreciate it. We're not sitting there counting numbers. We just appreciate the fam getting extended. That's all. Simply put. And actually, you know what, Kratz? I was listening to Fair Territory yesterday, and we'll talk to Ken soon. And he shouted out the YouTube commenters. He essentially said that the YouTube commenters seem to be the kindest community among social media and video platforms. Would you agree?
Yeah, it's like they really care about the content that they're looking at and not just like, oh, this negative comment, this negative comment. I really, the YouTube commenters are awesome.
Mm-hmm. We're also in a world where, I mean, it's expensive to get 8 million streaming services and all kinds of media options. We've talked about it a lot in the off season. On YouTube, it's free.
True.
So people appreciate that you are doing a lot of work and they are not paying for it. They just go on their device and they watch you, and it's that freaking simple.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
But I also have a question for you. How much did you pay for that haircut you got?
What?
Not that much. Why, you don't like it?
I'm just saying. I'm just asking a question.
Less than whatever.
I just asked a simple question.
Let's get a grade on it, like my hats.
Is it too short?
It's kind of shorter than normal. It doesn't go as high as normal.
It fills in very quickly, especially now that it's sunny. I'm like
really
a chia pet outside.
Now that it's sunny?
Now that it's sunny.
The weather's much better in the last few days.
But
no?
what does that
That
do to your
affects
hair
the
going?
length of your hair?
In the summers in my life, my hair always grew quicker than in the winters. Is that not real?
That sounds like
I don't
fake
know, but
news
we
to
have
me,
7
but we'll
inches
just
of
go.
snow
Let's go with it,
So-
Scott, because you're Scott Braun, and we just have to say yes.
We could ask the people. I don't know. Actually, someone docked a star on one of our reviews recently because they said they didn't like that my shirts were too tight. I'm like, and it was on the audio podcast. I'm like,
Wait, someone gave you a
relax.
4-star review because your shirts were too tight on audio?
Mhm.
On audio?
They also hate Tommy Canley, Robbie Ray, Walker Buehler.
They hate him? Why?
Same person?
I'm just saying, I'm joking.
Oh.
No, they wear clothing that's probably, quote, too tight for this person's comfort. They all have tight pants. You don't notice the theme?
Oh, they do.
Joey Votto's pants? Little Euro fit?
We got a lot of questions for Robbie Ray. I didn't get to it with him. I was like, you know what? We're
He's a
not going to
tight
ask him
panter
about
too?
that. I'm pretty sure he is. Yeah. You
Oh,
know
very
Buehler and Canley are.
Yeah. I know Canley. We talked about it, but I try not. I don't pay attention to pants very often.
You will
Except
now.
for Garrett Crochet, who tight rolls his at the bottom, which is super odd to me.
Didn't someone ask Buehler after a playoff start and he got pissed?
Oh, maybe.
You don't remember
Did he
that?
pitch good or bad?
I don't remember.
No.
I mean, he usually pitches well in the playoffs, but I don't remember. But I felt like that was a question. But anyway.
Frankie said Scott's shirt isn't tight enough.
Oh, hey, what's good? All right, let's
I mean,
charge
if
the
you got any
mound.
tighter, it'd be like a Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue where it was just painted on you.
I'm okay with that.
You won't do
Teaza
that
helping
tomorrow.
us power a little CTM seg today. And our guest, Will Leitch, is going to join us soon. So let's get right to Jorge Soler. 3 years, $42 million. Was it worth the wait for both sides?
I mean, I thought he would get a little bit more. He did
Really?
turn down $13 million option. So, I mean, he was projected. I don't know what Kratz's projections were, but I saw 345, 348 around there. So 342, I mean, it seems like a fair deal, multi-year deal for the guy who's hit 30 and 40 homers the last couple of years. He's got a chance to be the first Giant since Barry Bonds did 30 homers in a season in 2004, the year I played there 20 years ago. I mean, that's the stat to me. There hasn't been a Giant hit 30 homers since 2004.
30.
30, not like
50.
40 or 50. 30. That's ridiculous. Shows you what that ballpark does to people other than Barry Bonds. But, I mean, I hope he goes there and does well. I mean, this dude hits absolute tank jobs.
And he can handle Oracle Park because that's really what he's talking about. You're a right-handed hitter at Oracle Park. Good luck getting 30, but this dude can hit the ball as far as anyone in the bigs.
If somebody can do it, it's Jorge. And I had him at 4 years, $62 million. So I was off. Very close on my years. I think I had 15 and a half, but he got 14 per year. This is not the superstar they're looking for, but can do superstar types of things. When you get a guy that can come up and change the dynamic of a game with one swing, that's what they've been lacking. I just hope they don't take his 908 OPS against lefties and his 789 OPS against righties and say, well, we're going to make sure, it's not going to be a straight platoon, but we're going to make sure we mostly play you against lefties. For $14 million, I don't think they're going to do that, but I've seen them do it to better players.
They did to Jock Peterson, and he was on a qualifying offer.
I know. I'm just saying. I just hope they don't do it. There's a stark. 789 against righties for his career is not bad, but
he's going to play every day.
Yeah. Well, here's my thing.
Let's also not forget who's gone. Gabe Kapler.
So you think it had more to do with Gabe than the front office?
I think Gabe and Farhan together, and now Bob Melvin is not really. He is, but he's not really a platoon guy like what Gabe was. I'm glad Susan was told that because I don't know how else she would have found out.
That's what she was told.
I know, but how else would she have found out?
I don't know, read it somewhere.
Oh.
She broke the story. Great job by Susan Slusser. First-time All-Star last year. You don't sit him. You sit when you do want to sit him, though. If he sits 5 to 7 games, if he has a totally healthy season, you sit him.
This guy
against the right side. You pick and choose those spots.
If you're facing, maybe a Yamamoto right side guy after day game after night game, you're facing Yu Darvish day game, something like that. Yeah, I can see that. But this dude, when he gets hot, he might be the hottest guy in the world because when he gets hot, nobody hits he'll go 10 homers in 7 games hot. And then he'll go 14 games at no homers. And then again, he'll have a 7 homer in 5 games. So it is spurty. But listen, when he gets hot, like we saw in the World Series in 21 with the Braves, that ball he hit off the Astros has never landed. Bobby Dynamite's still looking for it on the train up there.
Hell yeah. World Series MVP back then. The Braves don't win the World Series without Jorge Soler. And I know some people in the chat are asking about hiding him in the outfield. I know how to hide him in the outfield. Don't play him out there. That's a big-ass outfield. No,
they're fine in the outfield. There's a strictly DH. That's why I kind of like it for the Giants that they only had to pay $14 a year. For a DH that has potential to hit 30 pumps, what do you think? If you set it at 30 and a half, do you think he goes over this year?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd say 35.
If he's healthy,
yes.
He's had a lot of success.
37.
He's had a lot of success at Oracle. Not a lot of dingers, though. Obviously, this one was hit to the moon. Good night.
I feel like he'll figure it out.
He'll figure it out. That's where I want to see him play his 13 games when he goes to Colorado. He just
calls it Candyland. Coors Field. But don't put him in the outfield.
You don't have to.
Do you even put him 5 to 10 times out there or 0? Because I want him for it's a 3-year deal.
He's
31 years old.
Starting outfield.
I want him healthy and playing DH every day for the next 3 years. I don't want him out there.
Yes.
Period.
Who? And Conforto.
Fine.
They don't, and they also have Lamont Wade doesn't play out there, but he came up as an outfielder.
Yeah. They got Sable, Slater, Matos, Lee Yastrzemski, Tyler Fitzgerald, Hopkins,
Dude,
Conforto.
they have plenty.
Wilmer Flores, J.D. Davis.
He shouldn't play a lick ever.
Slater will give guys off. He'll give Conforto some time off if he needs to get off his feet. But Conforto.
So then what do you do with Wilmer Flores? Because he's kind of a DH now. He didn't really play the infield, does he?
And they platoon him too.
Yeah,
he can play.
I guess he'd be a first baseman. J.D. Davis. What do you do with him?
Platoon. Those are platoon guys.
Yeah, but you got to platoon him with somebody. Yaz?
Third base.
Conforto?
Are they going to play third base? JD will be starting at third base.
Play third against
JD
left.
and Wilmer can platoon, no?
Lamont
had a good year last year.
He did.
Wilmer did have a great year.
You just can't expect. You can't expect. Even if they would have gone out and gotten Bellinger, and I'm not saying they can't still go get him. Roster's kind of filling up, but you can't expect a guy to go out and give you so much offense in San Francisco because we just don't get that. So that's why you don't get that in San Francisco. That's why I love the pitching additions that they've made. Now they might have to wait till the All-Star break for some of them to come back, but I think that's how you build your team. And they added great defense in center field with Lee.
Some people are like, maybe you can hide him, in the outfield on a road game. Nah. I mean,
unless
there's a ton of injuries.
In Colorado,
No,
he's a DH.
Unless there's a ton of injuries, I think full-time DH. And my guess is he's not one of those guys that's saying I have to play in the field. You know how there's some guys that either say I don't feel right or I got to mix in some outfield time. Eloy Jimenez has said that for years, and no offense to Eloy, but I want him on the field. I want him DHing all year long for the White Sox. I'd rather have the bat on the field. It's not like he's bringing you, him and Soler, they're bringing you negative defense. Mm-hmm. And you want them on the field, and they're big-ass dudes. I just want them DHing.
Who would you rather have, Reese or Soler?
Soler, for this situation.
Yeah, Reese can play first, too.
I'm just saying,
this situation,
two guys that got kind of our 30-homer guys, 100 stakes.
Mm-hmm. And for DH, I want Soler because Reese can play first. He's not all he's above average at first. So I mean, I'll take Reese because what did Reese get? He got a little bit more. He got 234, right? So he got a little more cash.
Yep. And opt out.
More per year, but less overall. Yes.
Yeah, but he also got an opt out where he can prove he's healthy and then come back for seconds. So I mean, it just depends on who you're at. But I mean, they're similar players in the fact that they both can get really hot and they both can get really cold for a while. Just hopefully they time it right when they're hot. And but listen, good for Soler. He got 3 years, $42 million. You're not going to turn that down in a tough division, some tough pitching. But hey, good luck to the Giants.
One more signing for the Giants has to come.
Who? Chapman?
Nope.
Snell?
Yep.
Snell. Yes.
That's my lock. Can I have a lock? Can I have a lock this early? Do we have our cash yet in our accounts for?
Can we have a lock? I mean, it's February 13th, for God's sake.
Yeah, I've been talking
spring
about
training's already started for a lot of teams.
Wait, he's stealing my lock. Isn't this my lock?
Both can't have the same lock.
Did you lock it in?
I locked that in. I locked that in November, no?
Did you?
We talked about it yesterday, remember? I said.
I don't listen to what you say.
That's fine. I'll get a different
lock. You can have it, Kratz. I can figure out a different lock.
No, it's yours. Fine. Whatever.
My lock is Cody Bellinger is going to play this year. That's my lock.
That's a good lock. My thing with Soler is if I'm San Francisco and I do want to find that legit power threat in San Francisco and obviously on the road, not as difficult, this is the guy, right? This is the guy who can tackle this ballpark.
Mm-hmm. 100%. You need a bop.
Until they trade for Pete Alonso halfway through the season because David Stearns came out and said most likely he's not re-signing it or signing an extension.
He said that on FT before that.
He did?
Yeah. Well,
you asked him.
I know, but I thought he more dodged that question.
Yeah, it's the Aaron Judge treatment. Hey, let's let him feel out the market.
Yeah, and then you got to pay way more.
Well, not necessarily.
No.
But you don't know what's going on. I mean, you know how Boris operates. He might be talking to him right now saying, yeah, it's $250. And then Stearns might be like, cool, we'll let him get to the market and we'll pay him $175. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That could be going down.
That's what Stearns said in the press conference. He was like, this is just generally how it goes with Boris clients. He actually said Boris's name, and he was like, doesn't mean he's not a Met right now. So he might be the biggest name on the trade block this year.
I don't know.
Yeah, I can't see him trading him.
I don't think they're going to trade him.
Because if you trade him, he doesn't come back. Yeah. And if you want him back, you don't trade him.
Yep, agreed.
Because nobody ever goes back after getting traded except for Aroldis Chapman.
Yeah, and there's a billion other examples.
They thought Rizzo was going to do it. They thought
Lester
Brian might do it. John Lester. There's a whole bunch of guys they thought, they might come back. Yeah, they did.
Yeah, but Cohen's got all that cash.
I mean, you tell me the Cubs didn't have all that cash after they won that World Series? They got the Ricketts family has a ton of cash.
No,
you don't
they
think
didn't
the Ricketts family aren't making any money?
He wants one uniform for life, Pete.
Yeah.
I feel like he's staying there. Anyway, Teaza's the spot, teazaenergy.com. You know the code, FOUL. No nicotine, no tobacco. Use that discount code for 20% off your first order at teazaenergy.com.
How about our guy, Larry the Cable Guy, had a Teaza in yesterday.
You did.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's that's the story I'm going with.
That's the same story I'm going with. That's what many people pointed out. They said, wow, he's already getting with the times with the FT sponsorship ride. Anyway, our next guest I don't think is, but let's bring in Will Leitch for the first time on this show. You can follow him at William F. Leitch. Fresh from the Super Bowl. Will, great to see you. We've had many conversations on the air in my past media life. Great to have you on here. I guess let's start with this, though. First off, how was the Super Bowl, and can you baseballize it at all for us? Like, what are we doing wrong in our sport?
Well, first of all, I was in Vegas for 6 days around the Super Bowl. So I can't feel my face right now. To be entirely, that's a long time to be in Vegas when the Super Bowl is going on. It was an interesting experience. I've covered this my 12th Super Bowl, and the Super Bowl generally brings out a certain interesting sort of clientele of people that come to visit. Imagine that combined with Vegas. It got pretty intense there for the last week. Though I have to say, Vegas now, I think it's different to have Vegas. I mean, we've seen this with baseball as well. Like, Vegas is, it's more respectable than it used to be. And so in a lot of ways, it feels kind of like the same Pepsi commercial that the Super Bowl kind of feels like sometimes. It actually kind of fits a little bit. It really was not that down and dirty as you might expect a Vegas Super Bowl to be. It really kind of felt like it was that you had to walk through a casino to get to the stadium, but otherwise it was actually not dramatically different than other Super Bowls I've been.
It sounds like you work for Rob Manfred with your you're kind of pushing for the A's to say why Vegas is such a great place for the Oakland A's. I didn't know
I was out there. I was literally out there when the mayor was like, "Oh, I don't know. Oakland sounds great." I mean, certainly it's a weird time. Certainly with the A's in every regard right now. You walk by where the Tropicana is. It doesn't look big enough for a baseball stadium, I have to say. Certainly, they've a lot of things to get figured out there. Maybe Vegas works at some point, and maybe it works with the A's, but I don't know. There's a lot of things that situation got to get figured out before you can start putting a baseball team there.
Okay, well, before we continue this interview, I have to ask this. You're from Illinois.
Yes, sir.
So did you grow up a Cub or a White Sox fan? Because this answer is going to determine how this interview goes for the next 15 minutes.
First off, I grew up in the correct part of Illinois, which is closer to Kentucky than to Chicago. So I was a Cardinals fan. So
okay, that's fine. You didn't say Cubs, so okay.
By all means. But believe you me, interview. White Sox, Cardinals together. We hate the Cubs. Let's not we're not crazy here. For crying out loud. I grew up in central Illinois, where basically it was about like 70% Cardinals fans and 30% Cubs fans. So my father refuses to admit that 2016 happens. I mentioned it, and he's like, nothing happened that year. And I was like, Dad, lots of things happened, but he refuses to admit it because the Cubs won the World Series that year, and he will not say those words aloud.
That's funny. By the way, you said 70% Cardinal fan, 30% Cup. You missed a team somewhere then. There's
70% Cardinal fans. Well, and White Sox, downstate White Sox are more. We have no problem with the White Sox. We're fine with the White Sox. Just like we're fine with the Diamondbacks. That's like another team we don't worry about. We hate the Cubs and cheer for the Cardinals. And the White Sox, we got no beef. And you were popular when you were in St. Louis. People liked you.
I love St. Louis. Do you like what they did this offseason? Do you like the moves they made? Do you like the 3 starters they brought in, bringing back Lance, some of the other smaller moves they made to try to improve basically a terrible team last year?
Yeah, the pitching just fell apart on them last year. I thought it was interesting that the moves they made, Sonny Gray's here for a while, but otherwise the starting pitchers really feel like short-term hits. I think that speaks to 2 things. One, I think they do actually feel perhaps more confident than they should in some of the pitchers that are coming up. Tink Hintz is probably the most famous one in that regard, but Garson Crucefo. They've got guys that they think aren't ready now, but may be ready in a couple years, which is why they signed Lynn to a 1-year deal. They're basically they're trying to fix the problem in the short term while recognizing they think it's covered in the long term. But more to the point, I think it speaks to how, the Cardinals finished in last year. St. Louis Cardinals finished in last place last year. It's the first time that's happened since 1990. That did not go over well. If you saw what Busch Stadium looked like in August and September, there were so many empty seats there, and that's not something anyone is ever used to seeing at Busch Stadium. The Cardinals fans did not react well to that, and they're not really accustomed to it. So I think there's a lot of pressure on everybody there, and so those the idea of flooding the zone with pitchers, recognizing they trust the hitters. They feel like the lineup, a lot of those guys, Goldschmidt and Arenado, they were down a little last year, but not dramatically. So I think there's definitely reason to think that Arenado might bounce back a little bit. A lot of those young hitters, they have a lot of faith in. They really didn't touch their offense at all. They really feel like this is a short-term problem. They see 2023 as a blip and something that will be easily corrected this year. We'll see. We'll see about that. But I think it speaks to the pressure that everyone's under, from the general manager, from Mozeliak to Schill. I mean, like now you've got and really Oli Marmol is probably under more pressure than anybody else. I think there was a clear sense of kind of chaos that the Cardinals are not really used to with the Tyler O'Neill situation, obviously the Wilson Contreras situation. They really want to get this fixed right now, and so I think that bringing those pitchers at the very beginning of free agency spoke to how eager and desperate they were.
So are they picked to win the division because the division's terrible? Are they actually better this year? What's because they finished last, and maybe the offense is what they were last year. Maybe some of these players haven't taken the next step, or is it just inevitable that the Cardinals just get back in the playoffs because that's what the Cardinals have always done?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's worth noting that, like, I feel like everyone spent half of last year going, yeah, but the Cardinals are still going to win this division, right? They're still going to figure this out. And then it just never happened. So I think there's reason to that they feel that they were temporarily displaced from their rightful place last year. And I'm not sure that's right. I think that the offense-wise, I think there's reason to be excited. I think Jordan Walker may be able to have a pretty big breakthrough this year. Lars Nootbaar had some injury issues last year, but Brendan Donovan had some injury issues last year. Those are exciting young players for this team. They feel pretty comfortable to be able to build around. I still feel like the worry is the pitching. I mean, for as much as bringing in Gibson and Lynn and Gray, Gray was healthy the last couple of years, but had injury issues throughout his career. Lynn gave up, I don't have the numbers, but I think it was 47,000 home runs last year that Lance Lynn gave up. He gave up so many homers last year. And Gibson gives you a lot of innings, but I don't think anyone would classify him as a guy that you would start game one in a playoff series. Well, I guess the Orioles did. But more to the point, Miles Michaelis is actually someone that they're kind of treating him as a number two, and his numbers don't look like a number two last year. I still feel like it's the starting pitching. I think the 6 starters, maybe Zach Thompson, and the 7 starter, and you kind of Steven Matz as well. So I think there's still a chance that the pitching implodes on them. The advantage they have, the Brewers took a step back. The Reds have added guys. So I'm not sure I understand all the Reds moves that they add in. The Cubs, you keep waiting for the Cubs to make a big move other than Counsell. And I guess there's been a couple, but still they're losing. They lost Stroman. It looks like they may lose Bellinger. It's hard to see how they're better either. So almost by default, someone has to win. The fact that Fangraphs has the Cardinals a 5 games in first, and that speaks to how bad the division is and how people, even the numbers, I guess, still think the Cardinals will pull it out.
Who is to blame, though, for last year? Because you've mentioned a lot of very Midwest nice answers for, Goldschmidt wasn't that bad. Nolan, he was neat. And, Brandon Donovan was hurt. And Lars Nootbaar is a cool story. Who's really to blame? Because as the season started and there was, the Tyler O'Neill stuff and the Wilson Contreras stuff, I said, this has to be on the staff. I'm not just saying just Oli Marmol. I'm saying everybody, because Yadier Molina left and he was carrying way more weight than this organization realized to get his team, to make mediocre players better. So who really is to blame for last year?
Yeah, one person that's definitely not to blame is Wilson Contreras, which is the guy they tried to blame when that happened. He actually was terrific after that and really kind of earned the trust of the staff. I do think there were some issues. There were clearly communications issues with that. Like Marmol was in the middle of the O'Neill issue, but then he actually is not the one that made the decision with Contreras. That came from Mozeliak in the front office. And I think they clearly deserve a lot of blame for that. They also deserve a lot of blame, frankly, for not having any pitchers ready. When the idea they were basically counting on Adam Wainwright to throw 175 innings of 4 ERA or less last year, because he always does that, because the Cardinals always do that, and it just didn't pay off. And I think they kind of got caught not prepared. They almost, frankly, I think there was a little bit of arrogance for a team that's been good for so long and a front office that's been in place for so long. I think there was that same idea, we'll figure it out. And I think that actually led to part of the problem with the Contreras thing. The Contreras thing happened when the Cardinals were struggling. They were struggling early in the season, and the pitching staff was part of that. I don't think Contreras was the reason for that, but the pitching staff was a part of that. And I think there was a sense of they were just kind of flailing. They were just not used to this happening at all. And so they just started throwing stuff. And maybe it's Contreras. Where's Yachty? We miss Yachty. We miss our Binky. That is Yachty or Molina. I think they handled that very, very poorly last year, when the real problem was they just did not have enough pitching. And it's funny, there was the interview before the season where John Mozeliak said, "Oh, I think we're going to be fine on pitching." I assure you, the online people, Cardinal fans, had plenty of fun with that quote throughout the year, because they ran out of pitching like that and were just never really able to recover.
Yeah, they never did. And you're right. I think it was, oh my gosh, we're struggling. You know, what do we do? We're going to blame someone. And as we know, it's like golf. The caddy gets the blame, the catcher gets the blame when the pitcher goes bad.
I really want to emphasize again how great Contreras was after that. He handled that situation.
He was good. He was really good, yeah.
He made strides defensively. He hit the ball great. Remember, that happened right before his first trip back to Wrigley Field. Just like the worst possible time they could have done that. I think Cardinal fans who, listen, frankly, saw Contreras as a Cub until he signed, and the guy that was replacing Molina, there's no issues with Contreras. I think everyone's very, very happy with how he handled that situation, and definitely no one blames him anymore. In fact, I think that really hurt the credibility of the front office when they did try to blame him.
Agreed. Yep. So speaking of one thing that I've read that your heart is into, I believe also the Olympics, right? I'm all for it. Let's get the best players to play in a tournament in the middle of the season where everybody's hot, everyone's playing at the same time. Let's do it. What are the hurdles for this? And I love the idea that's been floated. 6 to 8 teams, WBC is a qualifier. 6 to 8 teams, take a little bit of a longer All-Star break. You could even maybe do the All-Star game in LA at the same time while you're playing the tournament, whatever it takes to make everyone happy and everybody, let's be honest, to get their money. But hey, I'm all for it. And what do you think the chances of seeing this happen? Because I'd love to cover it.
Yeah, it would be wonderful. I do still think there's a lot of headaches, though. I think that, for crying out loud, we saw the reaction when Diaz got hurt in the WBC last year. Imagine that happens for a team that's like in first place in the middle of the year and loses a starter in the Olympics. And like people are going to be very, teams are like, the money that's involved in this. Sure, there will be money to be made from the Olympics, but by the midseason, beginning of the year, the Mets could figure out okay, maybe we'll bring in Robertson. We'll be able to figure something out on there. Spring training injuries happen all the time. If someone gets hurt mid-season during a break, imagine people are going to freak out about that. And more to the point, I think because front offices are so risk averse, and they are, for better and I would argue mostly worse, they are risk averse. They are going to be very concerned, particularly because, the idea of, we're already talking about players not playing as many games as they used to and resting more, and load management is the big thing in sports right now. You have to get a lot of people on the same page to do this. I love the idea. It would be wonderful. I think it'd be great for baseball. I think it would be great for baseball globally. I know that's something that they're working on a lot. I was in London for the Cardinals Cubs game last year. It was a really great experience, even though they all use very weird terms to describe some baseball things, but that's just the idioms. But I think it would help globally a lot. I just think, everyone worries about the global reach of the game until it affects their personal bottom line or their team's win thing, and get everyone else on the same page. It just seems really hard to do. But obviously, I would love to see it. And I think you're right. It'd be a great thing to cover.
Yeah, and I'll take the trade-off. If we're going to have some injury issues, we had Max Scherzer on, and he was like, listen, I'm not doing it before the season starts. And obviously now he's kind of, getting towards the end of his career and he's dealing with another injury. But the point was he was representing many U.S. star pitchers who don't participate in the World Baseball Classic. So I think in this scenario, you would get many more signups. We already made Josh Hader say yes the other day when the story came out. But my big picture look is baseball needs to make this happen. They miss out on opportunities like this, and they are not the top sport in the world, or especially in our country, right? Things have changed. It's been a while now, but football is worlds ahead of baseball. Many people can make the case that basketball has surpassed baseball in popularity, especially internationally and with a younger audience. I look at COVID, when that happened, and there was so much money fighting about, oh, we don't want to pay you as much, and let's just have a shorter season. They could have been the first sport back and been like that for weeks, and they completely blew it. People were watching fake Russian table tennis, and we could have had baseball on. So that's why I'm like, they need to capitalize here. This could open up the games in LA. It's too convenient not to happen. So that's why I'm trying to push, the sport of baseball to think bigger picture and not just about every single short-term buck,
And I would argue too, remember the problem with COVID was that there were labor issues. They didn't have the new contract, right? Like I feel I'm one of those people that believes baseball works best when we've got long-term labor contracts settled. and I think that's something that when you don't have to worry about, that's what happened with COVID. That's why they missed that time. They missed that time because players and owners were already waiting for the next fight. And then they were suddenly had this sudden new fight and it hurt them. And I think you're right. I think that, listen, you're already hearing rumblings of I don't know, is Steve Cohen going to make us have another labor issue in 4 or 5 years? I know that's a horrible thing to talk about. Nothing makes me more upset to go, but you have to figure that stuff out before you have to put it almost in the contracts and get it set, because this is a big, big deal. And when we talk about the greater world of baseball, what's good for baseball, that's a really complicated thing. I don't think it's complicated to find out what it is. Obviously, the Olympics is. But what's good for baseball has a different definition. The players have a different definition of it than what the owners do, and maybe what the commissioner's office does, and maybe what the media does, and maybe what the fans does. To get everybody on that same page, you really have to be explicit, and you need to not be combative with one another. That's another thing that happened with COVID. There was combativeness between the executive office, the owners, and the players about something that was undeniably a good thing and would have been great for baseball. That relationship is better than it was then, but it needs to be lock solid, because what's good for baseball means baseball working in lockstep. And that means owners and players working together. And that's people get freaked out about things in baseball, about steroids or all these other things, or gambling. Not labor is that's what hurts baseball. That's what hurt baseball in 1994. That's what's hurt baseball so much more than these other things. If you get that together and everyone on the same page, then we can promote baseball the way that it should be promoted, clearly with the Olympics being set up pretty soon.
Was Shohei worth the contract?
I'm the bad guy in this one. I don't know, man. I know everyone is always okay, listen, it's deferred. It's deferred. So a lot of that 70 million is going to be in 2043. I would like to talk to who's running the Dodgers in 2042 and be hey, is it totally cool that you're paying this 51-year-old man $70 million? I know it's deferred, but listen, there's a lot of off the field money that obviously comes from Shohei, and obviously I can't wait to watch him, and it's going to be great. $700 million deferred or not is an unbelievable amount of money to do it over 20 years. And I know he may be worth it off the field, but you know what he definitely has to be is on the field for the next 10 years. And listen, this is a guy that it's been wonderful these last few years. There's been no greater story in baseball. I can't wait to watch it. We all love it. There is a reason that people don't do both of these jobs for extended period of times of being a pitcher and a hitter. It's because it's hard to do one of them. It's hard to keep your body healthy doing one of them, let alone doing both. He's going into his 30s. I do not like being the proverbial poo in the proverbial bowl on this, but it does strike me as odd that we're all just oh, Shohei will just be awesome the way he was the last 2 years for the next 10 years at 70 million a pop. I don't know. There's a very real possibility in 6 years you're paying $70 million for a DH for the next 4 years. I think there's a very real possibility who is in his late 30s. So I love Shohei. But yeah, I do have concerns about the contract. And I know we're all excited about it. It's cool for baseball, but we'll see if it's cool for baseball in 7 or 8 years.
What would be a successful 10-year run? What would have to happen in that 10 years to make you go, Will Leitch was wrong?
Well, nothing. I admit to that all the time about everything. So this is not a hard bar for me to clear. But I would say, if you get, first off, you have to win a World Series. I mean, clearly that's what the Dodgers are trying to do. And you also you need him to be healthy through at least the majority of it, right? You need him to be able to do both. Shohei is not going to be as popular in 2029 if he's just a DH playing 115 games. So the off the field money is just not going to be as big if he's not pitching. You need him to do both of those things. Listen, maybe they make so much money in the first 3 years of the contract that they can pay off the last thing. And again, everything's deferred, and they all, technically speaking, get enough money and enough billionaires in a room, they're going to find a way to make money no matter what happens. I'm not saying it's a horrible money loser, but it does strike me as a risk. And so I think I hope it works out. I think it's closer to 50-50 at working out than people are kind of assuming it is. But I think that if he's healthy and pitching for at least after the second to 6th or 7th year, I think you can be happy. And if they win the World Series, I don't know, man, like you can tell me what you think Shohei Ohtani is going to be doing in 2029 when he still has 4 years in this contract and he's 35, 36 years old. I don't know. It just strikes. And then you pay him another 10 years after that, after the 10 years contract's over. I don't know, deferred money or not. Like it just strikes me as a risk. It always has.
Okay, I have 2 questions, and one's a comment, the other's a question. I've been saying this since the get-go that Shohei, what happens if he wakes up after this year and is like, man, I enjoyed not pitching and I'm a DH. The Dodgers, like you just said, are kind of out. But you being a Cardinals fan, if the Cardinals would have offered Shohei the exact same contract, would you have been happy about it?
No. To be honest, no.
So you're saying for the next 10 years, you get Shohei for $2 million, and then, I mean, the DeWitts, they have bukus of money. They ain't losing money in St. Louis. That's not your problem. But as a fan, you'd be like, damn, that's awesome for the Cardinals. We get Shohei for $2 million a year?
Yeah, but it's not actually $2 million, right? And I'm still going to be a fan of the team for those 10 years that he's gone. Like that's the thing. That's the thing I always try to remember about these contracts. And I always try to keep, whenever I write about sports, I always try to remember that, like, more than anything, I'm an official journalist and I write books and I'm serious, but I'm really just a fan, right? And I'm going to be like, someday the DeWitts may not own the Cardinals. Someday Marmol's not going to be the manager. Someday Pujols retired. Like everyone, someday they may be the different stadium. Everything's going to change. But I and the people that root for the Cardinals with me are always going to be here. So I'm still going to be rooting for them in 15 years. And that's going to be terrible for the Cardinals. The Dodgers may be able to absorb it. The Cardinals, there is no way they'd be able to absorb that in 15 years. I think about all the time. Remember when they were going to trade for Giancarlo Stanton, and they wanted Stanton. They were going to take on a big part of that contract, and then Stanton decided to go to the Yankees. Imagine where the Cardinals are right now. The Cardinals can spend money, but they are not spending money like the Dodgers or the Yankees are. If they'd have gotten that contract, the Cardinals would have been a huge, huge problem right now. So yeah, I do think that, like, I would not on opening day be like, boo, I wish you weren't on my team, Ohtani. But certainly long term, I think there'd be a lot of stomachache about that contract. I don't think there's any question.
My only thing is, I mean, it's an investment group.
No. By the way, thank you for saying, as a journalist, that you are also a fan.
Of course.
Every journalist we have on here says, oh, I'm not a fan of a team.
He's not a beat reporter, though.
I got thoughts about that. I got a couple thoughts about that. One, yes, if I were a beat reporter, I would have to put that aside. But I would be a terrible beat reporter because I'd constantly be watching the Cardinals game when I was supposed to be covering the team.
You're Scott Merkin of the White Sox that watches the Cubs all the time.
Yes. But also, I would say I do think that, like, your beat reporters, they are able to put that aside. I'm the weird one on this. And, like, for me, a lot of this and my kind of career is based around the idea, that little moment where you, like, put aside your fandom and you put on your journalism hat. I'm just physically incapable of doing that. I think it's weird. I think it would take away the joy of the sports for me. So I criticize the Cardinals constantly. I have a podcast I do with Bernie Miklasz every week, but we criticize the Cardinals constantly. I would argue no one really criticizes the team more than the people that love the team the most because they know it the best. But I think it would be fundamentally dishonest. So people are like, well, he admitted it. He's a Cardinals fan. I think it would be dishonest not to do that when I talk about this, because then I'm hiding something. And for me, you could not sooner than you could pull the ears off my head. Could you make me not a Cardinals fan? Like, it just could not happen. And so as long as I'm upfront about it, hopefully that's enough.
Yeah, but this isn't a beat reporter. This is a Renaissance man. I mean, look behind him, and this I will finish anyway. I mean, he's got a book, like, at what, 4, 5, 6 books at this point, and I think some nonfiction and some fiction, right?
Yeah, these are both novels. They have nothing to do with baseball at all, but I like to put them on when on baseball shows.
Yeah.
I mean, can we get copies? Because, I mean,
talk it up.
Can we get some copies? Because I like to read. I've read Kratz's book. I haven't recovered from it, but I read it. I mean, people send us books. I read most of them.
You do read most of the books. Yeah,
I will absolutely send you guys the books. And for the record, just put them behind you every time you do the show. I would actually.
Look over to Kratz's left shoulder.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
These are the books. These are the books.
And the time has come. These are both novels. They're good. Stephen King said this was a wonderful book, and he writes a lot of books. I only write like a couple a year.
Was yours is the book as scary as Stephen King's books?
It's as scary as his beard.
Okay.
But yeah, it's scary. It's a suspenseful thriller. It's How Lucky is about a man with a disability who witnesses a crime and tries to report it, but he's nonverbal. So the book takes place in his head, and hopefully people like it. People did tend to like it. I'm writing another one now, but I'm still writing my baseball stuff too. I just get to do two things at once.
Which one is your favorite though? Do you like is the baseball a hobby, or is the novel book writing the hobby?
If the next book I write sells 40 million copies and I turn into John Grisham, I am still going to be writing about baseball every week. There is no way you are not getting me to write about baseball. This is baseball. Writing about baseball is in the same way that Stephen King, frankly, he's written books about baseball, and he talks about all the time about how baseball is his peaceful place. It is his place where the madness of the world, or the darkness of his books, or the chaos of everything going on. Baseball is the place where things make sense. I'm sure it probably doesn't always feel that way when you play it, but from the outside, the world is a terrifying place full of anguish and horror. Baseball is the place where things make sense.
Grisham, most of his books have either lawyer or something about baseball, or both in all of his books.
Yeah, he knows what he's doing. He feels the same way. We have the same agent, so it works out well.
Hey, there you go. I like that. Well, hey, at William F. Leitch, you can check out obviously on his Twitter all of the work he's doing, all of the books that he's got, and obviously the latest one you can just see right here. We'll post a bunch of this on our accounts as well. Will, great to catch up with you, man. Great to have you on here. Hope you enjoyed it. What? Oh, there's Kratz's. Yes, thank you. Mr. Show.
I'm looking at Kratz's book, I promise. Thanks for having me.
There you go. Thanks, Will. Cheers, man. Talk to you soon.
Yes, sir.
Will Leitch with us on FT Live, and Ken Rosenthal joining us soon. You want to do spreading rumors for a sec?
Do it.
Okay. So, Dana Brown.
Haven't seen that one in a minute.
You know what I was hoping for? What? Spreading rumors that we'd have you and I with the cans with the strings attached to each other. We could be like.
You have to do the bit, though. That's why you're not in slap hands. You have to participate in these bits.
Well, you did that without me. You didn't even ask.
You're always invited.
We definitely asked you to come up to New Jersey.
Yeah. I went to New Jersey
one time.
Twice.
He did. All right. So we have Dana Brown, general manager of the Houston Astros, talking about the possibility of going to the next level beyond the Jose Altuve extension, and that would be potential extensions for Alex Bregman and or Kyle Tucker.
Yesterday with Scott regarding Alex.
Yeah, I just think, we both respect that. Look, there's really not a timeline on this right now. And at some point we will make an offer. I think we both respect that. And that's pretty much the conversation that, look, we love Alex. We'd love to have him here. And, as far as the timeline, we just don't have it. But we will at some point make him an offer. We know how good he is and how good he's been to this franchise. It'd be tough to look out at third base and not see that elite defense, And so at some point we will circle back and have those conversations.
I like straight shooters. Dana Brown's great. I also just wonder in today's negotiation process why it's not just a phone call and a ballpark range. We haven't done it yet, but we will at some point. Why not just have some numbers thrown out there or conversations? That's why.
And also, I gather from what he said, I feel like, and not only what he said there, but also other comments he's made, their priority is Kyle Tucker right now.
Really?
Seems like it over. I don't know. It just seems like Kyle Tucker over him seems like more of a priority for them to bring back. I'd love for them to bring both back. But they had to lock up Altuve, I think, or there would have been a little bit of mutiny from the fans. Mm-hmm. But Kyle Tucker, for some reason, seems like more of a priority because he's younger. He plays the outfield. He's left-handed. I think. I don't know. We're spreading rumors, so that's my rumor.
Yeah, do it. I mean, Tucker has an extra year too. Bregman's a free agent after this season, and remember, Kratz at one point last year, I think it was more than halfway through the season, Dana Brown essentially said Kyle Tucker's going to be an Astro for life. Remember that?
I do remember that, but didn't when Altuve signed, wasn't something said like, it's okay, we still have 2 years with Tucker. So that made me feel like it was kind of on the back burner. I remember when Dana Brown said that before, but I thought Tucker, I don't know. The reason they don't give the offers is because essentially, now it'll never be looked at this way, but Tucker and Bregman could technically be bidding against each other, which could be an issue. Like, hey, Alex, like, take this because we offered Tucker this. Somebody's going to get it, somebody's not.
Yeah, and then someone else is going to go to free agency and get plenty. It's just a matter of how badly you want to stay with the team and potentially take a discount.
So who's easier usually to deal with? This is just an opinion.
I know what you're going to say.
Excel, who Tucker's with, or Boris.
It's not even close, especially on extensions. Scott Boris is public about wanting,
especially when they're in their last year of their contract,
go to free agency.
He almost with Corbin Burns.
Yeah,
we talked about it, right? There's a whole Correa, right? There's another Boris guy. There's a whole bunch of guys that they play it out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, now you look at Bellinger, Snell, Chapman, Montgomery. It's February 13th.
If they get their money,
I agree.
Okay,
I agree.
If
they don't, and they got to take again a 1 year. Let's say, and God forbid this happens, but one of them takes a 1 year just parachute deal. Something goes wrong. It's like, gosh, man, like I get it. I get the risk because more times than not, he comes. Well, I shouldn't say that. We hear about him getting the deals more than we hear about him not getting the deals because he's the best PR machine there is. When things go right, he's there. He's the only agent that goes to these press conferences a lot of times, right? Other than Ohtani's agent who was at that. But other than that, it's usually the player, the GM, the owner, and the manager.
Yeah, he's very public. He comes on this show.
Yeah.
I've invited half the agents in the league to come on, and most of them don't want to. They should. You should publicize yourself. There's no reason not to.
I agree.
Can I spread another rumor before we get to Ken? What do you got?
One thing on Tucker, and who makes out better if one of them accepts the contract first? You follow what I'm saying?
Tucker. Well, actually, Bregman because he's older. Because he's older.
To me, I think for the Astros, that's what they have to weigh. They have to weigh the fact that if they offer Bregman a contract, it could be better for Bregman and worse for the team to try to get Tucker, because Tucker's a better player. I get it's not taking anything away from what Bregman's done, but Tucker's a better player. And so if you don't lock Tucker up first, then you're going to be overpaying for Tucker.
It's pretty close, though. Bregman's still damn good.
Bregman's really good, but I mean, I agree. I mean,
He's
the thing is,
level.
Tucker's kind of in the MVP conversation the last couple of years. Bregman's kind of fallen out of that a little bit. And listen, Bregman's still an unbelievable player.
I mean, teams are obsessed with WAR. Tucker was a 5.4 last year, and Bregman was a 4.9. And I think Bregman feels like he underperformed last year. He's had
been
bigger
underperformed
years.
For a couple of years now. Remember, 22. He didn't have a very good
22.
regular
The
season.
offense was better though. 134 OPS plus.
What year was it? 21 maybe. He didn't
21. It was down.
21 is the year he didn't have a very good year.
Yeah.
12
homers, 55. But he had the injury. What was it? The wrist?
Yeah, he had something shoulder or wrist, something.
Yeah, remember in 21 he was playing with like one hand in the World Series. So I don't know. I'm a pretty big Bregman fan still. Lastly, I just wanted to throw this out there while we're on the topic of the American League West. So Corey Seager's probably going to miss most of spring training, maybe even miss the beginning of the season. Remember, we talked about it a little bit the other day. He's a guy that's been through a lot of injuries. Apparently, he had an issue with his lower abdomen for a while, and he was asking the team about it. They were like, it's a lower ab issue. It'll go away. Then he just found out recently that it's a freaking hernia. He went to a different doctor, got another opinion. It's like checking in the offseason. Hey, medical team, what do you guys think? And I'm not throwing any specifics under the bus with the team. It just, they missed it because you're going to have a guy that potentially starts at the season late. Hopefully he doesn't, but I just don't want him to get unfairly labeled. You know, I know he had that trip with some of his buddies and people are like, oh, why is he just getting the surgery now? Well, he had the issue. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have ever experienced that, but there's a reason why players will go for second and third opinions when something's bothering them, because not every doctor operates the same way.
True. Listen, I broke my wrist.
Yeah.
The White Sox told me you're out for the year. I went to the White Sox doctor. They're like, you're out for the year, guaranteed. You need to have surgery tomorrow. And I'm like, whoa, I have the right to a second opinion. I went and saw a hand specialist, Dr. Graham in Cleveland. He's like, if you were my kid, I wouldn't have surgery. This will grow back naturally. Back playing in 2 weeks.
Whew.
So, I mean, yeah, that's why you have the right to a second opinion. Now, if you get the same opinion, then you understand it. But I don't want to lessen what doctors do, but you go to doctors they don't all see the same thing. They don't all have the same experience. They don't all have the same schooling, whatever you want to call it. So that's why you get multiple opinions on something like this, and which Corey Seager went and did. And then he found out he had a hernia, and he was like, I remember Jermaine Dye played in 05, the whole playoffs with the sports hernia, core muscle injury, him and I think Pasednik. And they were like, oh, you have a pulled groin, just play through it. And it ended up being both of them. They ended up being a hernia, and they both had to have surgery.
So clearly it's something that not every doctor catches. And if you're a good doctor, because I know nothing about that field besides like friends and fam that are involved, then you don't have an ego. And if someone has a problem, you say, hey, go check it out with someone else. Go get another opinion. No biggie, right? Check your ego. It's a medical field.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, all right, let's hit some insider topics right now. FT Senior Insider Ken Rosenthal joining us fresh off another Fair Territory episode. Ken, good to see you. Love the new backdrop. And also, actually, I'll start here real quick. I loved the end of Fair Territory where you shouted at the YouTube commenters and said how you've seen some kind words. And I will agree with you that I think there is often kind compliments and justified comments, that like have some legitimacy to them versus just your typical trolling action. Do you agree?
Totally agree. And that's why I said that yesterday. I don't often look at comments other than really to scan them, because if you do that, you have a very low self-image after reading them. But I have at times glanced at the YouTube comments, and they've been, to me, surprisingly civil and, as you said, insightful compared to what I usually get both on X and even in the Athletic comments. So listen, sometimes I deserve negative comments or they're warranted, but overall it seems like YouTube, it's just been a better experience for whatever reason. And I said that because I was grateful for it. That's all.
I like that a lot. All right, so let's get to the notes. So what stood out to me, and I guess in the storylines too, in Fair Territory, is extension season. It has essentially arrived as players get to camp. Are there any potential extension candidates that you have your eye on for the next month or so?
Zach Wheeler above all. And I know there's been a lot of talk about Tucker and Bregman. I don't expect Bregman to sign an extension. Tucker perhaps, but it's not going to be easy. But Zach Wheeler is a guy the Phillies want to retain. I expect they will retain him. And at some point in March, I figure we're going to hear an announcement. Zach Wheeler is back with the Phillies. Or not back, but extended beyond this year.
All right. I agree. First of all, Ken, before I ask my question, you make baseball come alive, apparently, which is amazing. I love that.
AJ, you know what that is?
I don't.
All right, I'll tell you what it is. So 1989, I was covering the Orioles for the Baltimore Evening Sun. And back in the day, when there were newspapers sold in newspaper boxes, I know this happens in some cities still, but that was the newspaper box insert that they put in there to get people to buy the paper. I don't know that anybody did buy the paper because of that, but that group of players there, AJ, you'll like this. It's Randy Milligan, it's Joe Orsulak, it's Ben McDonald, it's all these guys from the 89 Orioles.
Okay. All right. I like it. It just doesn't look like you. That's what more drew my attention.
Well, because it's almost 35 years ago. That's why.
Yeah, but you just look so much taller, but that's a different, we'll get to that later, Junior. All right. So you mentioned extensions and the fact that, you think Wheeler might be the one. There's a lot of free agents out there still, and it's February 13th. Almost every team reports in the next few days, let's say the next 3 or 4 days, right? By Sunday, they're all in camp. Are these 4 guys, mainly the 4 Boris guys, are they going to sign? Soler obviously signed late last night, but the 4 Boris guys are still the main names out there. Are they going to sign, and when?
They'll sign at some point. And I expect with the pitchers in particular that they'll sign and they'll do still pretty well as they might have otherwise. Because what I expect to happen this spring, and I hate saying this because it almost sounds like you're wishing for this to happen, it's just a reality though. Pitchers are going to get hurt. Pitchers on contending teams are going to get hurt. Teams are going to have needs arise, and suddenly they're going to grow more interested in adding a Blake Snell or a Jordan Montgomery than they might have been otherwise. So they'll sign. Bellinger's going to sign. Matt Chapman's going to sign. I guess the bigger question, AJ, is what kinds of deals do they end up with? And that's what we don't know right now. There's still some money in the game. There are still teams that need these players. The Blue Jays are looking for a hitter. The Giants reached agreement with Soler, as Susan Slusser reported early this morning, but they could still use Matt Chapman. So I expect that these guys will all do okay, at least okay in a representative sense compared to what we thought they would do. But it remains to be seen still just how all this is going to play out and whether one of these guys or more will take a deal that we didn't really expect him to get, a deal less than what we expected. And we'll see how it goes.
I want to hit a little bit on extensions again. The fact, is there ever a scenario where we're going to sit there and go, okay, we're going to put this in the collective bargaining agreement that a team keeps a Kyle Tucker example so that we keep players in one place forever? Now you get some type of, like, you get an extra pick, or you get something so that it encourages the Astros to keep, the Pirates to keep, the Reds to keep their homegrown players in their cities, which we're always clamoring for. And there's always tons of people who are saying, oh, free agents. Well, it's just the big markets can only take the free agents. Is there ever a scenario where we could see that happening?
Erik, it's an interesting thought. I don't know if I can see it happening, and I don't know that the teams would be eager to do that, or the Major League Baseball side would be eager to do that. But it's an interesting concept because it would give a team an enhancement to sign a homegrown player long term. Now, they'd have to define homegrown player. I guess it would have to be a player you either draft or signed internationally. But what about a guy like Tatis, for instance? The Padres traded for him when he was in low minors. Would he count? But that's neither here nor there. The concept is interesting. I don't see it as a restriction on the free market. That's something, of course, the union would oppose. But I don't know that it will happen either. In fact, I don't know that it's ever been proposed along those lines. And maybe it's something I should look into and start asking questions about, because it is an interesting idea in the sense that I just mentioned. It doesn't restrict the market. It's simply giving a bonus, essentially, to a team that embarks upon this kind of course.
I know you're not a prognosticator of numbers, but what would it take for Soto to sign an extension? Because you said in fair territory, it's not happening. It's not happening. He already turned down $440. What kind of realm are we looking that, not even in free agency, in Scott Boras land of extensions, because he did it with Strasburg, and that really didn't work out for the Nats so far. What would it look like for Soto?
Strasburg actually was a free agent when he signed, Erik. He did re-sign, but he was a free agent. Altuve is an example of an extension that Boras did have and was representing. The thing is, if you start with a number, let's pick $500 million as an example. Scott Boras might say, well, that's the floor. And now it can go to free agency with that as the floor. The other thing about an extension for a guy like Soto, and let's just play this out, even though I don't see it as realistic at all. If you're Boras, what you want the Yankees to do in that scenario is buy him out of free agency, or give him enough money so he won't go to free agency. That's a better way of putting it. What's that number? What's the number that Juan Soto might get in free agency? Is it $600 million? Is it $550? I don't know. But the Yankees would have to go to some level like that to essentially buy him out of his rights to become a free agent. And it's the same question all over again. If they offer $550, for instance, or $600, Boras then says, well, the Yankees were willing to do that in a non-open market situation. What might a team do in an open market situation? So for Juan Soto, he's going to be a 26-year-old free agent. The world is his oyster. And I expect he's going to have a big year, and I expect he's going to hit the open market and do really, really well.
Ken, what did you think of the Soler signing by the Giants? It seems like it fits a need for him, brings him a power bat. I already said he's probably going to be the first guy, if he stays healthy, to hit 30 homers since 2004 in a Giants uniform. That's 20 years ago. That's amazing in a world where home runs are king right now. What did you think of it? We all probably thought he might get a little bit more, maybe longer years, but it seems like a good signing for both sides. Your thoughts?
I liked it. And he opted out of Miami to go to the market and get a multi-year deal. So for Soler, this looks like a good place for him. Obviously, it's not a great place to hit. We know that. But his kind of power, as you said, AJ, he should hit 30 in any ballpark. He did it in Miami just fine. It's not exactly the most hitting-friendly environment. So for him, it's okay. And keep in mind, he's not an outfielder. He's a DH, and you're always with that handicap as a free agent. For the Giants, I liked it too. And I like it because they need right-handed power. And yes, they've been involved with Chapman and Bellinger after signing Lee to play center field. But you have to have somebody. And they've been rejected so often. To get him in the fold, Soler, and now maybe go after Chapman as well, and then maybe make some trades with some of your excess, then you have something a little bit more interesting than certainly what they had last year. So I did like it from the Giants' perspective, and for Soler, I thought it was fine. I didn't think as a DH he was ever going to crush it, and this is about where you would expect he would have been.
Where does this put the Giants in your mind in the division for now? Obviously, I'm sure the Dodgers are in a different category. The Diamondbacks are coming off a really strong offseason, and I still think the Giants have at least one more move left in them, and that could vault them, say, over being in the Padres realm. Because, I mean, this team for most of the season was in playoff contention, the Giants. They didn't do anything at the deadline, and they kind of fell off at the end, but they were close.
I agree, Scott, and they do have one more big move in them, and actually, I believe several moves, because maybe it's one addition and then some subtractions that maybe bring you other things, right? So they're a work in progress still. They're not by any means fully formed. If they get Chapman, then J.D. Davis becomes expendable. He actually might even be expendable right now. Andrew Baggerly of The Athletic mentioned that Conforto might be expendable. You can do some things now with different players and maybe get some pitching back. They kind of need, right now, with them waiting for Alex Cobb and Robbie Ray to come back after the All-Star game, they need some immediate rotation help among the offensive shortcomings that they have. So if they could perhaps pull something like that off, one of the hitters for one of the pitchers, not a free agent, I'm talking about a trade, then maybe that would be something that they should do. And there are still some free agent starters out there as well. Michael Lorenzen is out there, Eric Lauer, a number of different lesser free agents. Mike Clevenger is another one, but guys who can at least give you innings until those two big starters come back in the second half.
And to close the book on this signing, he also is departing essentially now from Miami. I mean, he was with the team and had a monster season, earned this contract with the Giants. So the aftermath for the Marlins, I know, they acquired Berger and Josh Bell at the trade deadline and felt like that was kind of the power boost or power fill-in for those players. I'm also just looking at Soler and wondering still if they should have offered, the $20 million. I'm having a hard time thinking that he was going to accept that. I know technically that was more per year, but that's where a team like the Marlins is supposed to be able to get a draft pick out of it, right?
Scott, you're absolutely right. And I've written about this. If you're a team that is not going to spend money and professes to be building, which is where the Marlins are right now, then how do you not make Jorge Soler a qualifying offer? If for some reason he accepts, it's 1 year. It's $20 million, you're good. They didn't want to do that, and it cost them. It's going to cost them a draft pick, obviously. But going beyond that, where are the Marlins in general? I've been asking this question all off-season. They traded for Nick Gordon. Okay, he's a fine super utility type guy. Still need a shortstop. They're looking at Gio Urshela possibly to play third base and have Berger move to first and Bell DH at times. They can do some different things if they get Urshela. But, man, the shortstop hole is vast. The power gap is significant, and yet they still are not really doing anything. What they are trying to accomplish under their new GM, Peter Bendix, is kind of an overhaul of their infrastructure and to make things better in the farm department, the international program. I get all that. I never understand why teams can't do two things at once. And you can do the infrastructure, and apparently, from everything I've heard, it's needed. They have a long way to go along those lines. But my gosh, you do not ignore the major league product coming off the year that they had, and yet that is exactly what they're doing.
Well, Ken, they've signed as many free agents as dinners you've bought me over the years. So it's the exact same, zero. Exactly. It's the exact same number over these years. So, I mean, you should be a huge Marlins fan at this point. Last question from us. You wrote about Billy Epler. We spoke about it on Friday. Did you find out more information? And the more I hear about this, the more I just think it's complete and utter, excuse my language, bullshit. He wasn't in the game this year. He's taken basically a vacation for the year. I think he's still getting paid by the Mets a little bit. So it's really like, oh, we're going to slap him on the wrist, even though he's not involved. And we'll prove a point to everybody else, don't do this, even though everybody I've seen, everything I've read, everyone I've watched says every team does this.
It's more than a slap on the wrist, AJ. It's a year suspension. And that is not insignificant. So from that perspective, as I wrote, they're trying to make an example out of him. And they claim that they have evidence, more evidence than they usually have in these kinds of things when it's mostly he said, she said type of accusations that take place. But at the same time, as I also wrote, because he's not employed by a team right now, by giving him this penalty, you're not ticking off any owner. You're Rob Manfred, you're good. He's a guy that's out there, he's not employed. He could be made an example of quite easily. And quite easily because, yes, they did have more evidence from this anonymous tip than they normally have. They followed up on the anonymous tip, found out what Billy Epler was doing. And yes, he was doing these things where you falsify injured list placements. Okay. But yes, other teams do it. I don't know if it's every other team, but it's certainly not an uncommon practice in the game. You could interpret this as a warning sign from Rob Manfred to the other teams saying, hey, guys, we're not going to tolerate this anymore. And that's fine. But it sure seems like Billy Epler was, in an unfortunate way, the chosen one here. And that's why he got the penalty that he did.
And he was the only one. He was the only one that knew about
Only
this.
one in the Mets
only one
organization
acting
that
like
knew.
this.
Only Mets
Yeah,
organization that knew.
That's a hard thing to believe. That's hard to swallow. That.
I don't know why they said that. Just leave that out of the press release.
I mean, come on.
That part I had.
But he
a
was.
problem with.
My whole thing though is he's not working this year anyway. So it's like, I mean, I know a year suspension is a long thing.
They can reinstate him too. That was
Yeah,
important.
but
If he somehow gets a job in
That is
June,
this year
important.
anyway. So
He can
a formality.
apply for reinstatement and possibly get reinstated. Who knows? Maybe at the All-Star break. But at the same time, it's his name, and now it has this asterisk on it, for lack of a better phrase. And I'm sure it's hurt him deeply that he's the one who got this penalty. I don't know that he would say, hey, I was completely innocent here, but are any other teams that innocent? That would be the point I'd make.
Yeah, it's silly. But thank you, Ken. Appreciate the time. We'll talk to you later this week.
Thanks, guys.
All right. So Fair Territory is out there for the world to watch and listen to. Top 5 spring training storylines is on there. There are 8 new managers taking place with new ball clubs, or obviously, someone like Pat Murphy getting promoted to the manager job after council leaves. More on the Boris 4, like we covered earlier, Dude and Dork of the Week, which takes a different spin. The word dork gets morphed into another word, and Grill and Ken. So check all of that out. Fair Territory with you every week on the FT channel and on its own pod page. All right, ready for a little spring training action?
wait, what?
What do you mean, what?
I thought there was games started. I didn't hear about.
No.
No, not games. Action.
Oh,
As in
Shohei hit a
Ohtani
ball. Shohei hit
hitting
a
baseballs.
baseball.
Yeah, and people sitting there going,
Oh, look at that! He took a full swing and
he
hit
hits
it.
homers over the wall.
Oh,
I mean,
that's
the
so
important thing, though, is he's coming off another surgery. You want to make sure that he's 100% at the plate. And is anybody concerned about that?
No.
But you never know. I mean, Kratz, you never know. It was pretty secretive about exactly what happened initially. You never know. I mean, it's his second significant elbow surgery for him, and he's doing something that no one else does. So you do want to make sure. Well, he's a full-time hitter coming off a TJ injury. No? I mean, you just want to make sure that he's okay. This is still a good sign. It's better than if you saw him and you were like, oh, he's still kind of slow playing it, or this is not a great example, but they don't have much clarity yet on Walker Buehler's timetable, and he's not likely going to start the season. At least you have a definitive. Shohei's good. He's playing in those opening games at the end of March in South Korea, and he's hitting homers every other freaking pitch in BP.
As a smart man that sits to your left once said, follow the money. Teams are really smart. If they were afraid his elbow wasn't going to be good to go, they would not have offered 72, 702, or $1 billion. They would not have offered any of it. He's fine. My favorite part of all this is the fact that we're going to get to kind of see what happens to American players when they go over to Japan. And it starts on this first day. They count every one of your BP swings and how many home runs you hit. I wish Jonesy was on. He could attest to it. My buddies who are over there, like every single day, they would ask him, you only hit 7 of your 56 BP swings out. Is everything okay? And you'd have to answer to that after BP. So we're kind of getting a taste of it. But 10 and 21 swings, oh man, that's like, I'm quitting. I'm not even taking 21 swings if I hit that many dingers in BP. That would be unbelievable.
Think about the adrenaline he had going. First of all, the ball flies in Arizona. Second of all, think about the adrenaline he had going. I mean, listen, this isn't the first time he's hit either. Okay, it's not like this is the first. I guarantee you he's taking swings somewhere. There's just no cameras there, whether it's in the cage or whatever. But he had all the adrenaline going, new team, showing off a little bit. He was like, watch what I can do, fellas. Oh, you got Freddie MVP, got Mookie MVP. I got a couple MVPs in my back pocket too. Watch this. And so, I mean, listen, it was awesome. I'm happy that he did it. I'm happy he put on a show. It's good for baseball. The more we talk about baseball, the better it is. And now football's over. It's time to talk about Shohei and baseball.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not abnormal to see that. I mean, I know, like Kratz said, it's definitely a little bit of a heat check, but it's not like you've never seen a guy hit, half of his 10 or 20 pitches over the wall, right?
He hit on the field. That's rare. He doesn't hit on the field during the season. Yeah. I don't know if he normally does in spring training, but during the season, he made a big deal out of it because he hit on the field in Yankee Stadium and in Fenway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's great.
Mm-hmm.
The more of that, the better. The Dodgers also just are such a great business operation that they are going to have multiple, cameras and phones and all of that, and give the world the footage. You know what I'm saying?
They're going to have everything.
But that is part of the marketing machine. We want
That's why we said Shohei's going to have to do more with the media this year.
But it's great. I mean, even just him taking BP, though, that doesn't affect him at all. He doesn't care if there's an extra phone or two or camera or two or even a freaking drone in BP. Like, give us all of the action.
Can we get that? We have drone.
Need it.
Target practice.
More
Can
drone.
you hit the drone? It's flying around. I mean, I'm not paying for it. Scott's the only rich one on this
Home Run Derby. That'd be sick. Hey, the wedding I officiated had a drone right above me.
Come on.
And it wasn't mine, but I
got
was
the valves
officiating
wrong too, I heard.
With that hair?
That's why you got the haircut.
Yeah.
The drone.
The little lawnmower action.
I had a drone. I got a drone one time. I still have it, but I took it to Braves camp when I was at the Braves because Johnny Gomes was like, I want to see. It was kind of when they first kind of hit, and I flew it. And we had spring training at Disney. Oh my gosh! You would have thought like I never seen so many security guards run out. You can't have that over the field. I'm like, there is not one person. And, but it's Disney property. We can't have that. You might. And I'm like, dude, I flew it up, flew it around the field, and landed it.
They freak out.
Oh, they freaked out.
Did you get in trouble, or they just said
they were
put
just
it
like,
down?
don't do it again.
Got it.
And then it chopped my arm all up.
Did it really?
Oh yeah, I got kid scars where I was so flustered by all the people, I didn't shut it off, and I kind of shut it off wrong, and it went down my arm.
Wait, so you got the Bauer?
I continued to play.
Right. Well, obviously you don't miss anything, but you did get in a little battle with your drone.
It wasn't that bad. I was smart enough not to get my fingers involved.
No, and you didn't go on the Phantom IL for it.
Also true.
He misses days only if his chair is terrible. That's the only time he misses days.
That's why I had to pay for my own chair.
He's getting up there, That's what happens. You get injured from chairs.
What kind of chair Brian has?
Not as good as he once was.
We got a little intro for our next guest, so let's run that.
You want an M&M?
Oh, no, that is so sweet. Thank you, though.
Yeah. I keep them here at my desk so that everybody doesn't take them. Now you know how I feel sitting next to those M&Ms all day.
Well, why don't you just move the M&Ms?
Well, why don't you shut up?
Brian Baumgartner joining us, of course, Kevin from The Office. And it's great to have you, Brian. I am a massive, massive fan of yours and of The Office. You are a Dodger super fan, which we'll get to as well. And then, I got this clown sitting next to me if you want to say hello to him.
Thanks for having me. I mean, based on the fact of what you just said, I know already you're way smarter than the guy sitting next to you. So,
Yeah, what's our running thing? And I tell people this. What do I tell you every time you bring up your show? I've never watched it, but now after seeing that clip, I feel like I should. It was kind of funny.
Well, here's the thing, AJ, and I mean this with all respect to everyone else besides you. I don't need you to watch it.
Yeah, there's a few 100 million others.
No, I know.
Pick up the slack for you.
There's a million. Everyone I know loves it. They think it's you love it.
I love it.
My brother-in-law thinks it's the greatest show of all time. He loves it. So I mean, I might have to tune in now. It's on Comedy Central.
Yeah, there's
every 5
syndication
minutes.
everywhere. I've seen every episode, Brian, and then I don't like rewatching things. It's one of the only shows or movies I can just have on and keep seeing the same episode. So props to you. I'm not the first person to tell you that, but we appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much.
You want to get into a little Dodger talk first?
I mean,
we just talked about Shohei.
Here's the thing. Is there any reason this year to talk about any other team?
Well, you heard what Mookie said, right?
What did he say?
He said that for every team playing them, it's going to be like the World Series for them in the regular season.
Well, yeah. No, I know. Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. They don't have anything else to play for. That's what I'm saying.
Where were you when you heard the Shohei Ohtani news, and what was your reaction?
For me, it's not well, because of some of the quote unquote experts and insiders in baseball, the drama was there at the end, which maybe that was constructed. For me, it was evident for the last year. I mean, I feel like all of the moves that the Dodgers made, or more specifically didn't make, before last season, indicated that he was the guy and he was going to come. And whether they knew it or not, I think they were going to make sure that he was there. So I really spent all of last year assuming he was going to be there. For me, the thing that's really was surprising is that they managed all the other guys that they managed to get in addition to him. That was the part that was surprising. And I guess someone just told me this. I've been on the road almost the last 3 weeks, but that Yamamoto said that he was coming regardless. Is that right? That was the quote?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
With or without Shohei.
That's right. With or without. That's what I heard. So that was surprising to me for sure.
Hey, by the way, now the Dodgers payroll matches your Georgia Bulldog payroll for your shitty hat you have on. So, I mean, now they have equal payrolls.
I had on headphones and she told me I didn't need them. And so I immediately grabbed this hat, which I wanted to wear.
Where's your Jets hat? Where's your Jets hat, you traitor?
I think it's downstairs.
I mean, you're a Packers fan and you're a Jets. I mean, it's
he's a Rodgers fan.
Yeah, that's true. Sorry.
I just got back. I'm coming to you live from my home, but I just got back from Las Vegas for the game. I don't know if they've been saying this everywhere else. They certainly were saying it there that, every Super Bowl should be there. Every Super Bowl.
You think so?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, I don't think the owners will let it happen because of how much revenue it generates for their own individual cities. But in terms of experience, I mean, you think about it. Anyway, if you've ever been to Vegas, the infrastructure, I stopped going to some of them because of a lack of infrastructure in some of the cities. I just knew it was going to be a disaster. I mean, in terms of transportation and venues and hotel rooms and, places to go. I mean, Vegas is literally set up for it. I've had the opportunity to go to, I don't know, 7 or 8 of them now. And I mean, you can't even, it's sort of like the Dodgers in baseball this year. You kind of can't even compare the experience to any other city, including like New Orleans, Miami, and the ones that, they like to go to.
So are you saying that baseball is going to thrive in Vegas?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think the issue. Well, let me say this: I went to the stadium for the first time in that's Allegiant Field, in November, and I sort of and actually against the Packers, and I had sort of heard like that it was going to be 90% the visiting fans, because if you're in Pittsburgh or Green Bay or New York and you have the opportunity to follow your team 1 week during the year, you're gonna choose to go to Vegas and pay whatever it takes. I was actually surprised by how big the home crowd was, even against the Packers. And I'm not saying that because I'm a Packers fan, but you think Packers, Dallas, they have such a national fan base. I really expected it to be huge, and it really wasn't. And so, I mean, the local community, and obviously you look at the Golden Knights and the fan base that they've generated for hockey in Vegas. I think it'll do well. I mean, I don't know where we sit on that. I know the mayor had some kind of weird comments last week, but I think baseball would do great there.
Brian, you're from Atlanta. You went to SMU. I'm correct? You went to SMU, right? But you're a Georgia fan. Makes no sense. What? Why?
From Atlanta. The first part of your sentence, AJ.
Yeah, but you went to SMU. That's like, shouldn't you have an SMU? I don't know. I'm just saying. But shouldn't you be a Braves fan? So why on earth are you a Dodger fan? Because the Braves are, listen, if there's one team that people can say can take out your Dodgers, it's the Braves.
Well, here's the thing. I don't root for the team based on that. I am a huge, as you know, huge baseball fan. I love baseball, and I grew up as an enormous Braves fan back in the days of John Smoltz and Tom Glavine and Greg Maddux. I was a huge Braves fan, and if you recall back then, I don't know exactly how old all of you are, but there was TBS, so the two teams you could watch every single week were the Cubs and the Braves, thankfully for me. So when I started working, I was working in the theater and traveling around. And even when I went to college, I could watch the Braves every game because they were on TBS. And then that kind of faded away. And eventually they left TBS. And this was sort of this period before MLB Network. I moved to Southern California. And the truth is, I realized I'm never leaving. I'm never going back to Georgia. I'm going to live in Southern California forever. And I love baseball. And so the first summer, I arrived in the summer, and that first summer, I got in the upper deck, a 10-game season ticket package to the Dodgers because I wanted to watch baseball. And I had traveled all around the country and had followed the Braves, but I realized I wasn't going to leave. I got the Dodgers season tickets, and then gradually I increased the games, and my seats got a little better. But I was a season ticket holder for the Dodgers, and I just sort of made the decision. I want to be able to go to games. I love the game. I want to be able to watch the games on TV. So I became a Dodgers fan then.
Okay, well, you're not Mary Hart. You didn't have Mary Hart's seat back there. You didn't have, you weren't front row. And then are you one of the Dodgers fans that showed up in like the 5th inning and leaves in the 7th?
No. My tickets were behind third base for a number of years. Probably the best tickets I ever had actually were not the closest to the stadium, but I had I managed to get first row of the loge, which at Dodger Stadium is still pretty close, and those were the best seats I ever had because you sat up a little bit. I was essentially right behind just perpendicular to third base, so I could see everything so well. And I probably had those seats 6 or 7 years, and they were my favorite actually.
Well, you mentioned Smoltz, and I think that pod came out today, right? The Smoltz conversation.
Today, I had a conversation with Smoltz. I mean, I couldn't have AJ on. He's already been on my podcast, Off the Beat. Smoltz came on talking about pitchers and catchers reporting. Baseball season is on, and really I talked to AJ about doing this podcast. So what I needed to do for mine was to have Fox's number one analyst on for my podcast, and then appear on the Fox's number 2 analyst podcast as a guest. Yeah.
That was good timing by you. It's amazing how you worked that out perfectly, by the way.
Just how I threaded the needle.
I mean, yeah, that is like about as perfect as you could thread the needle. I mean, it's okay. You know, we tried to have Steve Carell on, but he was busy today, so we went with someone else in the office.
Do you know what, AJ? He's going to be busy for you for a long, long time.
That's good. Hey, can we get something Kevin related? Like, I don't know, have you ever been asked like to do Kevin as a Dodger fan, or any of your famous lines that you can kind of baseballize? Like, give me something that you get recently that you're able to throw out there.
Well, I'll tell you this is my favorite my favorite story. Everybody wants to talk about the chili, and as AJ knows, everybody wants to talk about the chili. I'm sitting in a bar. I'm traveling for work. I'm alone. I'm like buried in the corner. I'm on my phone, like just trying to be inconspicuous. And I just finished eating, and a hotel bar. The bartender comes over, or sorry, yeah, one of the bartenders comes over and puts food down in front of me, and I don't even look at it. I just I look up at him, like, and I just say, "Oh no, sorry, no, I just finished." And as I said, like, almost like one of those, like, I don't know, movies from the 50s or 30s or something. The bartender like leans down on the bar, looks at me and says, "This is from the woman at the end of the bar." And I look down, and it's a bowl of chili. And I look down at her, and she's like giving me the like, yeah, pretty clever, right? And I legitimately laughed pretty. I thought that was pretty clever.
Didn't you do you like judge chili cook-offs and stuff for charity, don't you? I've seen on your Twitter, your Instagram.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Look, I never,
look at this.
There it is.
Wait, but Kevin, this went viral last night because it was right before the Giants actually made a pretty big signing of Jorge Soler, but Casey Pratt is actually coming on the show tomorrow. That was booked a while ago. Live look at the Giants and A's rushing in to hype their baseball product now that the Super Bowl is over. It's so good. And I looked at that. I'm like, guess today, guess tomorrow. This is just perfect.
Tell Casey, well done. What are the A's going to Vegas? Is it done, guys? Tell me the inside scoop.
Well, we had David Sampson on yesterday saying he doesn't know if it's necessarily going to happen. Even today, Will Leitch, who said he was out there at the Trop site, he's like, I don't know how they're fitting a baseball park there. Most parks have way more room, and it was originally going to be retractable. That's gone because the owner doesn't want to pay for it. Shocker. So it's going to be a dome, and then you need even more space. They have 9 acres to work with. They haven't put out real renderings. They do the fake renderings when they first make the announcement and try to get the public to pay for a lot of it. But those are fake. They don't have the real renderings. And it's been like 8 months. So I'm starting to get concerned that someone can't even draw up what this thing would look like in that space.
Wow. Yeah. I was reading the stories there. I think that broke when we arrived. Wow. It's been a long weekend. On Thursday that the mayor had said, like, maybe they should stay in Oakland. I thought that doesn't seem like what the messaging you want to get out there. But I mean, I made the jokes about the Dodgers. I do think they're going to be good. It remains to be seen how, whether Shohei could come back and pitch next year. But I will tell you, I did play golf with Dave Roberts here in the off season, who lives not too far from me. And by the way, hell of a guy. I don't know if you've had him on, but hell of a night. I've never heard anyone who knows Dave Roberts and doesn't like Dave Roberts. But he's excited about all of their potential as well.
Tell me about the name Kevin Malone. Is there significance in, did you choose that name? You're smiling like, is there, or was that chosen for you? Because there's some background that the chat has let us know, and I want to see if there's any correlation that is that where you came up with the name?
Wait, where did this come from? Where did this come from?
In our chat.
Okay.
In our chat, they said your name, your stage name on there is Kevin Malone on the show.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And it is also it was
general manager of the Los Angeles Dodgers. So I will tell you this. Why I was smiling was because my brain was trying to figure out if I have ever told this story publicly, this is what makes it weird that it was in your chat. The name when the show was created, when the script was written, this is true, was Kevin. And it was, the Office was based on a British version of the show. That character's name was Keith. I don't remember if he had a last name, but my character's name was Kevin, and there was Angela, and there was Phyllis, and there was Stanley, and there was, Jim. And I can't remember how far it extended, but I did not have a last name in the pilot episode of the script. And Greg Daniels came to me sitting on set one day and was like, okay, well, we need, hopefully the show is going to go more than just this episode. We need a last name. What do you got? And I just said Malone. And it was not a conscious, I'm going to take that gentleman's name, but I was a Dodgers fan. I was aware. And so I believe that the recesses of my brain was thinking Kevin Malone, the general manager of the Dodgers. And so I said Malone, never thought about it again. And, and now I feel a little bit bad about that, but anyway, it happened. It wasn't stolen, but it was from me. It was from me. And I think I sound like a comedian now who tells a joke and was like, oh, I didn't realize I was stealing that joke. It was just something I thought of. Maybe I heard it before. Yeah. I mean, my guess is, that's exactly what I was thinking. But it was sort of until the show kind of became bigger and it became like my name on the show. It was, that's
what would have been a better name? Pierzynski.
Euclid?
Kevin Pierzynski.
Euclid? Yeah.
Kevin Brown.
Brown. It worked out for me because there was a couple of episodes. Eventually, in the end, I sort of go and run an Irish bar that Scranton, Pennsylvania, where the show takes place, has the second largest St. Patrick's Day parade in the country to Boston, I believe. And so that was mentioned on the show. We actually spoke for years and years. People asked me, in terms of shooting the show, what my biggest regret was. My biggest regret was we didn't go and film on site for the St. Patrick's Day deal. But, there's some pictures I'm sure somebody will pull up right now of me on the fictional St. Patrick's Day, wearing green and a coat and a tie and a whole deal. So the Irish thing kind of worked out for me, given that the show was in Scranton, but was certainly not smart enough to even think about that at the time.
Wait. You mean you didn't film it in Scranton? You didn't film The Office in Scranton? I'm so disappointed. You could have been a Rail Riders fan.
I am a Rail Rider. Trust me. I'm a big Rail Riders guy now. I'm a big Rail Riders guy. Actually, when we started the show, there was, and by the way, you talk about Kevin Malone, and you're going to have to go talk to BJ Novak or Greg Daniels about this. There was another character on the show whose name is Ryan Howard on our show. There's a character's name who's Ryan Howard. And here's a little Easter egg for you. Ryan Howard, the timeline I'm going to mess up, but the Scranton, before it was the Rail Riders, before it was the Yankees, the Scranton Yankees. Scranton was the AAA affiliate for the Phillies. And there was a player by the name of Ryan Howard who played in Scranton on the Phillies, either rehab or I don't remember the story. And on Dwight's desk, who he has a bunch of bobbleheads, I don't know if it was there the whole time, but he had a Ryan Howard bobblehead there in reference to the player and to the Scranton AAA affiliate. But in addition to that, I think there was a wink to the fact that we had a character by the name of Ryan Howard who was played by BJ Novak on the show.
He wasn't a very good player, was he? Ryan Howard?
Ryan
MVP?
Howard,
I mean,
borderline Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I mean, he was a terrible player. I mean,
That's actually crazy though, because also, I mean, Jim ends up working in Philadelphia with the sports marketing group and all that. So the baseball names that are weaving together are actually making sense. You figure, it's just random. They're probably not baseball fans, and this is actually a lot of fact finding for me.
Okay, but while we're on the air, I got to ask Brian this, and he'll probably say no because he's this type of person. Let's make a bet. I get the field, and you get the Dodgers to win the World Series. If the Dodgers win, I'll wear a Georgia hat or shirt at let's say the Hilton Grand Vacations tournament next year.
No,
but
it's a Gators game.
No, hell no, that's not happening. That definitely ain't happening. But if someone else wins, you have to wear a Florida shirt or hat for the first round at the LPGA next year.
Well, here's the thing. Number one, I'm a big sports guy. Number two, I'm a smart guy. Number three, I'm a gambler. So let me just say this. Let me just say this. AJ, he and I have had these conversations before. If let's just say we can be specific, we could say MGM or we could just say Vegas. If Vegas has the odds for the field and the Dodgers 1-1, then it's a bet. And if they don't, then no. I don't make bets where I'm at a disadvantage, whether or not I think that it's true.
How about this? Can I put I like being the mediary in between here.
Okay.
AJ in the first round of the celebrity pro-am thing will wear a Georgia sports bra for the whole round, and you will wear a Florida shirt. So it's not a 1-1. There's definitely more,
That's
AJ's
done.
getting
That's
better
done.
money.
That's done.
Well, wait, I didn't agree to sports bra.
Yeah,
like a nice Georgia.
Like I can cover it, right? If it's cold.
No.
No.
What if it's last round I teed off, it was 35 degrees.
Well, then don't make the bet if you don't.
I did.
If you don't believe in it,
you're making
don't make
bets
the
for
bet.
other people, Kratz.
I'm just trying to level the money because it's
No,
not even.
that-
We're gonna find. We're on
like-
Bet MGM right now. We're gonna find the odds out.
Dodgers are plus 360 to win the World Series right now, which is actually way ahead of anyone
Yeah.
else.
Braves are second, I think.
Yeah, plus 600.
Yeah, but what's versus the field?
Wait, then then how this works? Sorry, let's just call it. So the field would be minus like 320.
Yeah.
If you do the math, if you bet no to the Dodgers, then you're taking the field and you're paying. Yeah, so maybe it's more than that. Maybe it's bra and undies. Maybe it's both.
I want AJ to be able to play in the tournament again.
Yeah, seriously.
I know.
Yeah, if I show up on the first tee in a sports bra, I'm going to be kicked out for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be worse than missing the cut.
We'll discuss it. We have a little time. Let me see if I can think of something. Look, I mean, how can I not feel good? But here's the thing about baseball, as you guys know, way better than me. You got to be playing well, and you got to stay healthy and at the right time. So, I mean, I'm not stupid. Of course I'm going to like flex a little. I have to. The off season has been remarkable, and obviously that counts for absolutely nothing if everybody doesn't get the job done. So it's going to be a fun and exciting season for sure.
I'd say that I would wear a Georgia hat or shirt at Florida, Georgia, and Jacksonville, but the World Series isn't over by then, so it's kind of a tough. It's a tough bet to make because that.
It might
listen,
be.
if I walked in a Georgia something, My people might die on the Florida side if I walk in Georgia's shirt or hat. Because all the people that have come to expect me to throw the party of all parties, they would be like, what's wrong with the world right now? Like the world is spinning backwards. That would be, but the problem is the World Series usually isn't over by then.
Yeah, well, actually the schedule's been released now, so I don't know what the date is. It's late October,
yeah,
right?
But the World Series now runs to November, so it's like
the Dodgers beat out after the wild card round.
Yeah, Diamondbacks probably get them again.
Oh, God.
I'm looking for the sketch here real quick. Florida, Georgia
is October 27th-ish?
November 2nd.
Oh,
you're actually in good shape this year.
Oh, when's the World Series?
World Series should be done by then.
Come on, let's do it. Come on.
Ooh, no, I don't know if this is worse than the sports brawl thing.
What do you say, Brian?
So here's the thing.
What's he gonna do?
Here's all I need. You in a Georgia gear, jersey, and you can't cheat. You can't have like a Florida hat on or something. It's got to be Georgia gear, and at your tailgate. Okay. The whole time, and then on the field, at least one jumbotron shot, so that the entire stadium sees you in that. Then during the game, I'll let you change. Like then you can change, but I need that. I need the tailgate when everybody's walking by, and I need the jumbotron shot for everyone to see and I'm getting real freaking specific. Not when everyone's still outside, like within 20 minutes of the start of the game.
So you mean between 3 and 3:30, basically. You need that between when everyone's starting to. Okay, but then what are you going to do? Because that seems like a lot. You wear the sports bra.
No, what? No, what are you talking about? No, that's not a part of it.
We're going to discuss this and we'll get back.
Right.
We're going to have to figure something out.
We'll
negotiate.
Have to figure
something out here.
Yeah,
we got to get
negotiations. Yes,
we'll lock it in. Bet MGM style, the odds and Bet MGM. We'll have it.
Yeah,
we're gonna have a prop bet. Sports brawls and
right. It's 3-1. That's fair. Kratz, you got one more. I got one more.
By the way, I got to dye I still owe Fish Lens a red hair dye, so maybe we can incorporate that.
That's true.
Also.
Yeah. You got a lot of work to do.
Yeah. Perfect.
All right. One last one from me.
Okay.
Do you beat AJ if you go back on Celebrity Jeopardy?
100%.
AJ's
you haven't been on it.
Smart.
You haven't been on it before, right?
No.
Oh, we got to line that up.
100%. 100%.
Are you the person on there when they have you seen all the clips of when they go down the sports reels and all of them are like Joe Namath and Joe Montana played this sport and they're all like beep, beep. What is lacrosse? Is that what you did when you were on there?
No, here was my problem. I will stand by this. Well, first, my problem. So in the Celebrity Jeopardy deal, it's not like the regular Jeopardy deal. It's 3 rounds and it's an hour. I got through 3 rounds. So what is it? 6 categories, 3 rounds. So 18 categories. That was quick math. Zero freaking sports questions. 0 categories in sports. We had what was my favorite one? Joyce Carol Oates. Okay, ready? That was the category. Is this James Joyce? Is this Lewis Carroll? Or is this Joyce Carol Oates? That was a freaking category. All right. And you know what I did? I was like, Lewis Carroll is Alice in Wonderland. Just ready. There's got to be one. Like my brain is going, there's going to be one Alice in Wonderland. There's going to be one Alice in Wonderland. Get ready. And then I didn't buzz it. I couldn't do it fast enough. That's the thing. That's why I said, if you've never been on, it's the buzzer. It's not the brain. It's the buzzer.
Were you like Rosie Perez and White Men Can't Jump? Letters that start with Q, or foods that start with Q.
With Q.
And going through the whole thing like that.
Quince.
Yeah. Quiche.
All right, here's my last one. Oh wait,
Okay.
is our mic funny right now?
Mine?
Congrats, is it okay? We're good. Okay, cool. So Kevin, my personal favorite Office
He just did it.
episode.
He just did it.
I
By
just
the way,
did
he
it.
just did it.
I reversed it. Brian, my
Okay.
personal favorite Office episode. I apologize. Is when Kevin is acting like he needs help with Holly. I'm sure you've heard this before, right? So I was
Yes.
trying to like spin this to some baseball perspective because
Okay.
the scene when she's helping him count change and he's at the vending machine and she's like, "Oh, you have whatever 75 cents. You can get at the top." I actually kind of thought about it with your Dodger pride. Is your team can go up to many other teams right now and say, "Oh, you only have $10 million to spend this offseason. You can get that tier of free agents right there, okay? We're going to go sign Ohtani Yamamoto, trade for Glass now, and sign Teoscar Hernandez just for fun." What do you think?
That was a really well executed incorporation of The Office, and because of that, I'm gonna give you a little something that you wanted before. So that scene right there, if you go back and look at it, I could not laugh. Amy Ryan, fantastic, Oscar nominated actor. I couldn't not laugh at her face. And it was her face looking right into my eyes with such care and such consideration as she's counting out the change in my hand. This is a quarter, this is a dime, this is a button. And she would say, "This is a button." And the whole idea of her having to tell me what a button was so, and her face, I could not laugh. And so I did what any spectacular actor would do. Was I looked at the script and I knew that the next line out of my mouth, like, so the camera at the end of that cuts to me and I'm smiling. You go back and watch, I am smiling. It wasn't a full laugh, but I was smiling because I was about to laugh. And I looked at the camera, but I knew the next line that I was going to have to say was, "I'm totally going to bang Holly." And so I used the smile to move into that, and that's how that scene was made.
Wow, that is
awesome.
good. It was that challenging. It's good. He
Don't-
could be like, "Hey," because Marlins or Guardians teams that have done nothing. Like, that's a button. You can't do anything with that this
The only thing
offseason.
I can compare it to baseball is the time when I'm sure you know Jeff Francoeur, Brian, when they
Yeah.
pretended they had the deaf guy on the team and he went with it for like 4 months, and he's told the story, and everyone, if you ever YouTube it or Google it, I mean, he literally thinks this guy is deaf for like 3 months, and the whole team is in on it except for him. And he's going up to him, he's like, "Yeah, that a boy!" Like screaming, like hoping he'd hear him. And he always had to wear headphones around him. And he's like, I don't know how he didn't laugh.
Oh my God, that's so amazing! It's so
Carried
amazing.
it for a long ass time, but that's really good. Well, this was awesome. Really appreciate the time. Of course, again, as we'll put it on our socials, check out the podcast. There's some good baseball tie-ins for many of our fans, and it was a pleasure, Brian, speaking with you. And we'll look forward to whatever negotiations take place. Yeah, go ahead, get it out of the way because you're gonna have to wear Georgia gear at some point.
Wow.
Never.
Go Dogs. Go
There you
Dogs.
go.
There it is. Yeah.
Thank you, Brian.
Go
It was a
Braves.
pleasure,
Go
man.
Braves. Okay.
All right. See you guys. Thank you.
See you, Brian. Thanks,
See you,
brother.
Brian. Thank you.
Later.
Cheers. That was fun. Oh, good times. And I even
You
called
got
him
your
Kevin
thing in
for a
there.
sec too.
Yeah, you did. That was
Yeah,
awesome.
That was great.
He's awesome. Fella.
He is.
He's
is.
really fun. I mean, every chance that we get to hang out, we do. I mean, we see each other at these golf tournaments and hang out. And randomly, a few years ago, I literally ran into him at Florida, Georgia,
Mm-hmm.
and we were walking in the hotel, and I'm like, "Wait, what do you?" We both kind of looked at each other because when you see people, and you're just not expecting to see people in like certain. I was like, "Wait, what? What are you?" And he's like, "Dumbass, I'm a Georgia fan." I'm like, "Yeah, but you live in California." He's like, "Oh, I
You're up in Atlanta.
Yeah, I know, but he's like, "Oh, I have to do these appearances because I'm so famous."
He is pretty famous.
He is pretty.
He's definitely famous. Let's go to the Bet MGM World Series odds from last year. Arizona Diamondbacks edition. Nobody had 12,500 starting the season. Midway through, though, this team was going. I mean, we had We had Corbin Carroll was leading the charge for the team.
And I just started dying. And then we ended up having dinner together. I mean, then we hang out.
Now I guess they're back if they're going to start chatting over my Diamondbacks World
I
Series.
think we hear you, Kratz. You got us again?
I got you again. Yeah.
All right, cool. Great.
Just in the middle of Diamondbacks World Series odds. Nobody had 12,500, but man, did it look delicious after Game 7 of the NLCS.
Dude, can you imagine? I mean, there's always someone, whether it was a diehard Diamondbacks fan in Arizona, somebody said, you know what? I'm just going to put $100 down on the D-backs and maybe turn it into 12-5.
Supposedly somebody put 100,000 down. I don't know if that was a real bet slip or not, but
on the Diamondbacks before the season or before the postseason?
Not 100,000. Well, what was it? Let me do the math. 3 more 0. They put 1,000 down because it was 1.25 that they were going to win. Whew. It came out of the World Series. I don't know. It seems a little shady to me. I don't know if it was a real slip or not.
I'd like to warn anyone that thinks they're going to be bold and choose a team to win the NL West besides the Dodgers. Just be careful out there, kids.
I mean, put $5 on the Rockies.
No. Put $5.
I'd take $5. I'd take $5 on the Giants. I'd take $5 on the Giants. The Padres can't be as bad. The issue is they're not going to have the pitching that they had.
On the Rockies.
I guarantee you there's somebody that does it.
You're saying the pitching will be worse than last year?
You can get the Diamondbacks. I don't know. They upgraded their team. I think the Diamondbacks for the division is kind of recency biased. To me, I see the Padres or Giants finishing ahead of the Diamondbacks. Maybe they did enough this offseason. I don't know, but do not touch the Rockies. I don't even know why they put the 20,000 out there. Just should put on there not available. NA.
Kratz, you got us, right?
I got you. Yep.
All right. So place your first Bet MGM sportsbook wager through the app of at least $5, and you'll receive $150 instantly in additional winnings, regardless of your wager's outcome. When you download the app, sign up and deposit at least $5 into your newly created account. Place a wager in the amount of at least $5 at standard odds price, and once you place that bet, $150 in bonus bets, regardless of the outcome of your wager. Jamie Foxx looking good. It's a new pick. I like it. Good job, Jamie. Bonus code FOUL, though. It's right there. FOUL. Gambling problem or concern, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Let's go right to slap. Feels kind of conceited if I say I got to show my own Kratz hats. So, Kratz hats. Gonna rock the spring training is just around the corner. Every year they do something different. The Yankees spring training cap. They put it inside the logo there. And this is the last time before they started the non-mesh hats. The mesh spring training hats. That ain't it. Anytime you get a bald head like this, you cannot be having mesh hats. But since they're not on, I'm going to give this hat an A+.
No, we're on.
Oh,
we're back again for a sec.
it.
Wait, let me see the front of that one real quick.
All right.
Let me see the front.
Yeah, it's mid.
No, I like that. You put the Yanks logo in the hat?
Mid.
Our super fan, Derek?
Mid.
Derek, give me a grade on that. I like that. I give that a A-.
Yeah,
that might be the first. AJ, what do you have to say? Because I'm clamoring to know. Clamoring.
Yeah, it's mid. I'm just
What's
not a
the grade?
Yankee guy. I'm not a Yankee guy. They need to mix it up every once in a while.
That's mixing it up
That's
for
mixed
them.
up.
I know they need a little more though. They should have done like a red hat with like a blue NY or something different.
What do you want? Just a Y? Didn't they one spring training they did just Y? Terrible.
Now, why did they do that is the question.
Yeah.
I like it.
And when are the
Because
Yankees
AJ
getting a
wants
City
mixed
Connect?
up.
When are the Yankees getting a City Connect? By the way, the Dodgers are getting their second City Connect, which is really weird to me.
If you can see the pod right now
Japanese
on YouTube,
style.
that's the reason why.
Oh, what
Yeah, you gotta
they have
take
Los
advantage.
Dodgers, right? So what if they had their City Connect now was in Japanese?
Is there any doubt
Oh.
that it will?
I would wear
will
that
be
jersey.
that. Of course, it's going to be that. So Casey Pratt is joining us tomorrow, as we mentioned. Talk a little A's action. Paul Sewald will join us, and at least one other guest yeah, we're getting out 5 minutes early because I'm not going to say the name, but our internet provider is being annoying today. So there's a couple other things we want to shout out. Shout out to Jenny Kavnar. We'll talk more about this tomorrow as we learned that news right before we went on the show. Congrats on the A's play-by-play job. Congrats to Amir Garrett on signing a deal. We have a cool little story from one of his teammates that we'll share tomorrow, and a lot of other jazz on Wednesday's show. Kevin from The Office, classic. And thanks to the internet for only being annoying in the last 5 minutes, because that would have been bad if we didn't have our office jokes. So great show today, as usual. We'll see everyone on Wednesday. A-.
Happy birthday to M. Voigt P. Luke Voigt.